Be me, Natasha, 20-something, working a decent office job. Been living with my buddy from college for a couple of years. He's a good guy, clean, pays his rent on time, no real drama. But lately, I've just been feeling worn down. Everywhere I look, it feels like I'm navigating a world built by and for men. The condescending tone from a senior manager at work, the way guys on the street look at you, the constant feeling of having to be on guard. My friend is fine, but he's still a guy. He doesn't get it. He'll listen when I vent, but he has that blank look in his eyes like I'm describing the color of a sound. I've been getting more and more into feminist communities online. It feels like a breath of fresh air. Finally, people who understand. They talk about creating safe spaces, communities where women can exist without that constant low-level pressure. An idea starts to form in my head. I need to live that. I need to be in that environment for real. I find an ad online, seeking a fourth housemate for a feminist-run, intentional living space, a safe haven for women to thrive. Sisterhood is our foundation. It sounds like a dream. I apply, do a video call with the 3 women already living there. There's Amanda, who seems like the leader. Very articulate, sharp, uses a lot of academic-sounding terms. She's intense, but seems passionate. Then there's Shiloh. She's quiet, speaks in a very soft, gentle voice, says she's a survivor and values a calm, trauma-informed environment. And finally, Callie. She's the artsy one, very chill, talks about dismantling systems by just existing authentically. They seem great. They love my answers, and they offer me the room. I'm ecstatic. I tell my friend I'm moving out. He's leaning against the doorframe of my room, watching me pack boxes. He asks where I'm going, so I explain the setup. A little frown appears on his face. He says it sounds a bit extreme. He asks if I'm sure I want to live in what sounds like an echo chamber. I get defensive immediately. I tell him he wouldn't understand because he's never had to feel unsafe or unheard. I tell him this isn't an echo chamber. It's a supportive community, something men take for granted. He just holds up his hands and says, all right. I hope it works out for you, seriously. But I can see the skepticism in his eyes. It makes me even more determined to prove him wrong. The day I move, he helps me carry the last few boxes to my car. He gives me a quick, awkward hug and tells me to call if I need anything. I just nod and say I'll be fine. That I'll be more than fine. I drive away feeling a huge sense of relief and liberation. Goodbye to the patriarchy, even the nice version of it. Hello, utopia. I pull up to the new house. It's a cute little place with a garden out front. Amanda, Shiloh, and Callie all come out to greet me. Lots of hugs, lots of squeals of excitement. They help me with my boxes, refusing to let me carry the heavy ones. We're a team, Amanda says. The inside of the house is cozy. There are posters on the walls with empowering slogans. Books on feminism and social theory line the shelves. The air smells like incense and herbal tea. That first evening is amazing. We all cook a vegan meal together. We sit around the table for hours, just talking. I share my frustrations with my old life, and they all nod with deep understanding. Shiloh shares a bit about her past, and we all listen patiently and tell her how strong she is. Callie talks about creative expression as a form of resistance. Amanda ties it all together with insightful commentary on systemic issues. I feel so seen, so heard. I go to bed that night feeling like I've finally come home. The first week is pretty much the same, a honeymoon period. We have movie nights where we watch documentaries and foreign films directed by women. We have check-in circles where we share our feelings. It feels so healthy and communicative. Then, at the start of the second week, Amanda calls a mandatory house meeting. We all gather in the living room. Amanda has a binder in her lap and a serious expression on her face. She says that to maintain the harmony and safety of the space, we need to formalize some community guidelines. She pulls out a document. It's titled the Community Living Accord. It's laminated. It's 12 pages long. She starts to read it aloud. There's a list of problematic words and phrases that are banned from the house. Words like crazy, lame, stupid. The list is extensive. There's a section on emotional labor. It outlines a schedule. Each person is assigned a day where they are the designated active listener for anyone else's problems. There is a rule about guests. No guests are allowed unless they are approved by a unanimous house vote at least 48 hours in advance. Male guests require a 1-week notice and a written statement explaining the purpose of their visit. There is a list of approved household products, all from women-owned, ethically sourced companies. It's all expensive stuff. My head is spinning a little. This seems less like a friendly agreement and more like a legal document. But Amanda explains that these structures are what protect us from the chaotic, harmful norms of the outside world. Shiloh nods enthusiastically, saying that clear boundaries make her feel safe. Callie says it's beautiful to see feminist theory put into practice. I don't want to be the one to rock the boat. I'm the new girl, so I just nod along with everyone else. The accord is ratified. Amanda puts it in a clear plastic sleeve and tapes it to the fridge. The vibe in the house starts to change almost immediately. It's subtle at first. Conversations become more stilted, like everyone is mentally checking their words against the banned list. Someone will start to tell a story and then stop short, saying, "Oh, never mind. I can't really talk about that without using a problematic term." The emotional labor schedule is a disaster. On my designated listening day, Shiloh comes to me and talks for 2 solid hours about how the plot of a TV show she watched was deeply triggering. I try to be supportive, but my mind is glazing over. When I try to gently wrap up the conversation, because I have to get ready for work, she gets this hurt look on her face. Later, Amanda pulls me aside and tells me I need to be more mindful of my responsibilities as an active listener, that I invalidated Shiloh's experience. I start to feel like I'm walking on eggshells. A few weeks go by, and the physical state of the house starts to decline. Mainly the kitchen. It's a mess. Dishes are piled high, the counters are sticky, the trash is overflowing. Callie is the main culprit. She'll make elaborate meals for herself, use a dozen different pots and pans, and then just leave them to soak. The soak sometimes lasts for days. Shiloh never cleans either. She says the sight of messes overwhelms her sensory system. Amanda is busy with her activism and online courses, so she rarely contributes to the daily chores. I find myself being the only one who cleans anything. I'm washing dishes that aren't mine, taking out trash that is almost entirely composed of Callie's artisan kombucha bottles. I finally get fed up. At the next house meeting, I bring it up. I try to be as gentle as possible. I suggest we make a simple cleaning schedule, just to divide the tasks so it doesn't all fall on one person. The reaction is not what I expected. Callie scoffs. She says that the very concept of a cleaning schedule is a tool of the patriarchy, designed to domesticate women and chain them to unpaid labor. She says she refuses to participate in her own oppression. Then Shiloh starts to tear up. She says my request feels aggressive, and that being confronted about the mess is re-traumatizing her, reminding her of a controlling ex-partner who was a neat freak. My jaw is on the floor. I look to Amanda for support, expecting her to be the voice of reason. Amanda gets a thoughtful look on her face, steeples her fingers, and says that while my desire for a clean space is valid, we must also consider the historical context of domestic labor. She says Callie and Shiloh have raised important points. The conclusion of the meeting is that we will collectively hold the intention of a cleaner space, but that a formal schedule is too problematic to implement. Nothing changes. In fact, it gets worse. Now, whenever I clean the kitchen, Callie will say things like, "Thank you for taking on that labor, Natasha. It's so healing to see a sister reclaim domestic work as an act of powerful self-care." I'm not reclaiming anything. I'm just scrubbing her 3-day-old avocado toast remnants off a plate so we don't get ants. I start spending more time in my room. The safe space of the living room feels more like a courtroom where I'm always on trial. The smallest things become huge dramas. One morning, I'm running late for work. I grab a mug from the cupboard, make a quick coffee, rinse the mug, and leave it in the drying rack. That evening, I get a text from Amanda. "House meeting, 8 p.m., urgent." My stomach sinks. What now? I go into the living room, and it's set up like an intervention. The three of them are sitting on the couch, looking at me with grave expressions. There's an empty chair facing them. My chair. I sit down. Amanda clears her throat and says, "Shiloh has something she needs to share with you." Shiloh takes a shaky breath and pulls a tissue from her sleeve. She tells me that the mug I used this morning was her personal, special mug. It was a gift from her therapist. It was her emotional support mug. She says that my using it without her explicit consent was a profound violation of her boundaries. She says it felt like an act of psychic violence. I am completely bewildered. I apologize immediately. I explain I was in a rush and just grabbed the first mug I saw. I had no idea it was special. My apology is not accepted. Amanda steps in. She explains that my intent doesn't matter. What matters is the impact of my actions. And the impact was that I caused Shiloh significant emotional distress. Callie nods along, adding that my carelessness shows a lack of respect for the communal agreements of the house. They tell me I need to do more than just apologize. I need to sit with Shiloh's pain and truly understand the harm I caused. So I have to sit there in silence for what feels like an eternity, while Shiloh cries softly. Every time I try to speak, to apologize again, Amanda holds up a hand and says, "Just listen. Just hold space for her." It is the most surreal and humiliating experience of my life. After about 20 minutes of this silent, emotional torture, Shiloh finally nods and whispers that she feels heard now. The meeting is adjourned. I go to my room and just stare at the wall. This isn't a safe space. It's a psychological minefield. The sisterhood feels like a clique of bullies who have weaponized therapy speak. I start thinking about moving out. But where would I go? Moving is expensive, and admitting defeat to my friend. The thought makes me cringe. I decide to just try to stick it out. I'll be a ghost in the house. Work, my room, headphones on, avoid all contact. This works for a little while. I become an expert at slipping in and out of the kitchen undetected. I eat my meals in my room. I do my dishes immediately and hide them. I'm basically living like a fugitive in my own home. The peace doesn't last long. About a month later, my old friend texts me. He found a book he thought I had lost, an old favorite of mine from college. He asks if he can drop it by. My first instinct is to say no. The thought of him entering this house and the drama it would cause is terrifying, but it's my favorite book, and I miss him. I miss having a normal, uncomplicated conversation. I make a stupid decision. I tell him he can swing by, but to just be quick. He shows up a couple of days later in the early evening. I meet him at the door, hoping to do the exchange on the porch. No such luck. Amanda is coming down the stairs just as I open the door. She stops dead, her eyes narrowing at the sight of my friend. There's no avoiding it. I have to let him in for a second. I introduce them. "Amanda, this is my friend. He was just dropping something off." My friend smiles and says a polite, "Nice to meet you." Amanda does not smile back. She just gives him a curt nod. The atmosphere is thick with tension. He hands me the book. "Here you go. Knew you were looking for this. I thank him. The whole interaction takes maybe 90 seconds. He says goodbye and leaves. I close the door and lean against it, my heart pounding. I turn around. Amanda is still standing at the bottom of the stairs. Shiloh and Callie have appeared in the hallway, drawn by the sound of a male voice. All three of them are just staring at me. It's the same look from the mug Sident, but 100 times more intense. Amanda speaks first, her voice dangerously calm. She asked me if I remembered the Community Living Accord, specifically the section on guests. I stammer that it was just for a minute. He was just dropping something off. She tells me that the duration of the visit is irrelevant. A man was brought into their safe space without warning and without consent. Shiloh starts rubbing her arms, saying she feels a prickly energy in the house now. She says his presence was invasive. Callie chimes in, saying it was incredibly reckless of me. How could we know he wasn't dangerous? Did I even consider their safety? I try to defend him. I tell them he's my oldest friend, that he's completely harmless. This is the wrong thing to say. Amanda's eyes flash. She tells me that my need to defend a man over the valid safety concerns of my sisters is a textbook example of internalized misogyny. She asks me if I value male approval more than the well-being of the women I live with. The argument escalates. I'm trying to reason with them, but it's like talking to a brick wall. They aren't listening. They're just throwing jargon at me. Problematic, unsafe, invalidating, lack of accountability. They're not my housemates. They're a parole board, and I've just committed a major violation. The fight ends with Amanda informing me that my actions have created a rupture in the community that will need to be addressed through a restorative justice circle that weekend. Attendance is mandatory. I go back to my room, shut the door, and slide down to the floor. I can hear them in the living room, talking in low, angry voices. My utopia, my safe haven. It's a prison, and I'm the only inmate who doesn't realize they're also a guard. I pull out my phone and look at the text from my friend. Great to see you for a sec. Hope you're doing well. I feel a wave of shame and regret so strong it almost makes me sick. He was right. He was so right. And I have no idea how to get out of this mess I've made for myself. The weekend of the restorative justice circle arrives. I spend the 2 days leading up to it in a state of high anxiety. The house is quiet, but it's a heavy, loaded silence. Whenever I leave my room, one of them seems to be there, watching me with a look of disappointment. It feels like being shunned. Saturday afternoon, Amanda texts the group chat. The circle will convene in the living room at 4 p.m. Please come with an open heart. I feel like I'm going to be sick. At 4 p.m., I walk into the living room. They've arranged the chairs in a circle. There are candles lit. Someone is burning sage. It looks like they're about to perform an exorcism. Maybe they are. Amanda is sitting with a talking stick in her hand. It's literally a branch from the backyard with some yarn tied around it. She explains the rules. Only the person holding the stick can speak. We will not use accusatory language. We will speak from the I, focusing on our feelings. It's all so clinical and absurd. Amanda starts. She holds the stick and talks about her deep disappointment. She says she felt a sense of betrayal when I prioritized my connection to a man over the sanctity of our shared space. She passes the stick to Callie. Callie says my friend's brief presence disrupted her creative energies. She claims she hasn't been able to paint since the incident because the masculine aura lingered and threw her chakras out of alignment. She says she felt unseen and devalued. Then the stick goes to Shiloh. This is the main event. Shiloh takes the stick and starts crying almost on cue. She talks about how the unexpected appearance of a man in her home was a major trigger. She says it brought back all the trauma of her past. She says his voice was too deep, and it echoed in a way that reminded her of her abusive father. My friend said maybe 10 words. He was perfectly polite. This is pure theater. She finishes by saying she no longer feels truly safe in her own home, and that this feeling is a direct result of my actions. The talking stick is passed to me. The three of them are staring at me, their faces a mixture of pity and judgment. I take the stick. My hands are shaking. I try to follow the rules. I use I statements. I say, I feel misunderstood. I feel like my intentions are not being considered. I explain that he is my oldest friend, a safe person, and that the visit was brief and unplanned. I apologize again for not giving them a warning, but I try to explain that it was a very low-stakes situation. Amanda cuts me off. She tells me I am not holding the talking stick correctly, that I am being defensive and centering my own experience instead of validating theirs. She takes the stick from me. She says that for our community to heal, I need to demonstrate that I understand the harm I caused. The restoration part of the justice circle is then revealed. I am to write a formal, one-page letter of apology to the group, acknowledging my transgression and its impact. I have to read this letter aloud at the next house meeting. Furthermore, to rebuild trust, I am to take on all communal cleaning duties for the next month. The kitchen, the bathroom, the living room, everything. They call it an act of service to the community. I see it for what it is, a punishment. I'm exhausted. I'm beaten down. I don't have the energy to fight anymore. I just nod. I agree to their terms. The meeting ends with a group hug that feels completely hollow. The next month is one of the most miserable of my life. I work my full-time job, and then I come home and work a second job as a maid. The house has never been cleaner, but the mess the others make seems to increase exponentially. It's like they're testing me. Callie starts taking up pottery at home, without a wheel. She leaves clay dust and dried clumps of mud all over the dining table and floor. Shiloh decides to get into making her own essential oil blends, leaving greasy, pungent spills on every surface. Amanda is constantly hosting study groups for her online activism courses, and they leave behind a trail of empty mugs and snack wrappers. I clean it all up in silence. I read my stupid apology letter. I scrub the floors. I take out everyone's trash. They treat me with a sort of condescending kindness. They praise my cleaning, saying things like, "It's so wonderful to see you embracing accountability, Natasha." I feel like I'm losing my mind. I barely speak to anyone. I hide in my room. I count the days until my penance is over, but I know deep down that it will never be over. I've been cast as the problematic one, the one who needs to be managed. This will just keep happening in different forms. The financial situation in the house is also weird. I pay my share of the rent and utilities via direct transfer to Amanda on the 1st of every month, but I notice that Callie and Shiloh are always broke. They're constantly borrowing small amounts of money from each other for groceries. Callie isn't working, claiming that a 9-to-5 job is a patriarchal trap that stifles her spirit. Shiloh has a part-time remote job, but she frequently calls in sick, saying she needs a mental health day. I don't know how they're affording their share of the rent, but I figure it's not my business. I just pay my part. My month of servitude finally ends. Nothing really changes, except now I'm no longer officially obligated to clean up after them, which means the house immediately descends back into filth. I go back to my old system, only cleaning up after myself, eating in my room, ignoring the growing chaos in the common areas. I'm numb to it all now. I'm just a ghost floating through the house, waiting for my lease to be up in a few months. Then comes the day it all blows up. It's a Tuesday, I think. I get home from work, and there's an official-looking envelope taped to our front door. I pull it off. It's from the property management company. My blood runs cold. I open it. It's a formal notice of eviction for non-payment of rent. It says we are 2 months behind and owe several $1,000s in back rent and late fees. We have 10 days to pay in full or vacate the property. I'm stunned. I can't breathe. I've paid my share. Every single month, on time. I have the bank statements to prove it. I storm into the house. The three of them are in the living room, watching a movie. I hold up the letter. My hand is shaking with rage. What is this? They all look at me. No one seems surprised. Amanda pauses the movie. She gets that calm, patronizing look on her face. Okay, she says. It seems we need to have a conversation about resources. I'm not interested in a conversation. I want answers. I demand to know why the rent hasn't been paid. Callie sighs dramatically, as if I'm being a huge buzzkill. She explains that she had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to attend a week-long spiritual retreat for women artists. It was expensive, but it was essential for her soul's journey. So that's where her rent money went for the last month. I turn to Shiloh. Shiloh refuses to make eye contact. She stares at her lap and mumbles that her job has been incredibly demanding on her mental health. She says she's been experiencing extreme burnout and needed to take unpaid time off. She used her rent money for bills and self-care necessities, like acupuncture. My head is actually throbbing. I look at Amanda. You knew about this. You've been taking my money every month and not paying the landlord. Amanda holds up a hand. She explains that she didn't want to add financial stress to Callie and Shiloh while they were navigating their personal challenges. She says she was holding space for their struggle and was planning to talk to the landlord about a payment plan. The sheer mind-bending audacity of it all leaves me speechless for a moment. They're all just looking at me. And then the final blow. Amanda says, Natasha, we all know that you're the most financially stable person in this house. You have a steady job. You have savings. My stomach drops. I know what's coming. She continues. From a truly feminist, anti-capitalist perspective, resources should be distributed based on need, not on arbitrary systems of merit. Callie nods eagerly. Exactly. It's about community care. We're a community. We have to care for each other. Shiloh finally looks up at me, her eyes filled with tears. We were hoping you would help us. We're your sisters. We're drowning. They want me to pay their back rent. They want me to cover the thousands of dollars they owe because one of them went on vacation and the other one didn't feel like working. And they are framing it as my moral, feminist duty to do so. That's it. Something inside me just snaps. The part of me that was trying to be patient, to be understanding, to keep the peace, it just evaporates. I start to laugh. It's not a happy laugh. It's a sharp, ugly sound. I tell them that they are delusional. I tell them that there is no universe in which I am paying for their irresponsibility. The mood in the room shifts instantly. The soft, therapeutic masks fall away. Amanda's face hardens. So, you're just going to let us be homeless? That's your idea of sisterhood? Callie jumps up. This is what we're talking about. You've completely bought into the capitalist, individualist mindset. You're a class traitor. Shiloh starts sobbing, accusing me of having no empathy and of kicking her when she's already down. They're screaming at me now. All the jargon, all the buzzwords are being hurled at me like weapons. I'm a bootlicker. I have financial privilege. I refuse to acknowledge. I am perpetuating systemic harm. I just stand there and take it. And for the first time, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't get under my skin. Because I finally see them for exactly what they are. Not activists, not sisters. They're just selfish, manipulative hypocrites. They're parasites who have built a comfortable nest out of ideology, and they're furious that their host is finally shaking them off. I don't say another word. I turn around, walk to my room, and lock the door. I can hear them yelling outside, demanding that I come out and be accountable. I put in my headphones and turn the music up as loud as it will go. I sit on my bed and I make a plan. That night, I wait until I'm sure they're all asleep. Around 2 a.m., I pack one large suitcase and a backpack with my most important things: my documents, my laptop, my clothes, the book my friend gave me. Everything else, I leave. I don't care. It's just stuff. I move with absolute silence. Every creak of the floorboards makes my heart jump. I open my bedroom door. The house is dark and quiet. I slip down the hallway and out the front door. I don't look back. The moment the door clicks shut behind me, I feel a weight lift off my shoulders that I didn't even realize I was carrying. I stand on the sidewalk in the cool night air, and I take my first deep, clean breath in months. I walk a few blocks away to a 24-hour coffee shop. I sit down at a table, and I do two things. First, I forward the eviction notice and my bank statements showing my rent payments to the property manager. I add a short, simple message. To whom it may concern, I am no longer a tenant at this address as of today. The other three tenants, Amanda, Shiloh, and Callie, are responsible for the unpaid rent. I have attached proof of my payments. Do not contact me again. I also attach a few choice screenshots from our old group chats where they discuss their money problems and how I was the solution. Second, I pull up the contact for my old friend. My hands are trembling as I type. "Hey, you up?" He replies almost instantly. "Yeah, what's wrong?" The dam breaks. I call him. I can barely get the words out. I'm half crying, half laughing at the absurdity of it all. "Can you come get me?" And "You were right about everything." There's no "I told you so" in his voice, no judgment, just warmth. "Of course. Send me the address. The couch is still yours if you need it." He picks me up 20 minutes later. I get into his car, and I just feel this overwhelming sense of safety. Real safety. Not the fake, weaponized version I've been living in. We drive back to his place, and I fall asleep on his couch almost immediately. The next week is a blur of getting my life back in order. I block the numbers of my old housemates. I don't know what happened to them, and I don't care to find out. I assume they were evicted. I find a new apartment, a simple one-bedroom place. Just for me. The silence is glorious. About a month after I left, I'm sitting in a cafe with my friend. We're just talking about movies, work, stupid stuff. It's normal. It's easy. He looks at me and asks if I'm doing okay. I think about it for a second, and I realize I am. I'm more than okay. Be me. Thought I was escaping toxicity. Ran headfirst into a different flavor of it. Turns out being a selfish, manipulative leech has nothing to do with what's between your legs. Lived in a feminist utopia. It was a cult with better branding. My new safe space is a locked door and a paid-up electricity bill, and it's pretty damn great.